Great to see all these familiar faces. Um, I'm Kenneth, and
I'm Angela.
And we know a lot of you all. For those of you that don't, you'll get to know us a little bit better tonight. It's great to see you, Tom, here, because I was actually going to mention you as part of this story. So that'll be a little coming along here. So
should I start with the screen share? You want to start with the slides?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to work on sharing the screen here.
Yeah. Manually.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is the logo of Angela and I's craft school that we've been. This was at the end of our sixth summer, I guess. Seventh summer.
Well, we didn't have classes during COVID, so we skipped a year of classes.
And so, pause it just for a second there. So what we're going to do is show pictures, and then I'll talk a little bit about the pictures and how they it'll be a picture story that explains how all of these things intertwine to get us to where we are, because it's an interesting story how this picture was taken in 1995 at a place called Country Workshops down in Western North Carolina. And I've got my hand there on a Norwegian lapstrake pram that we had just finished building as part of I think it was a 10-day workshop. And that was where I met Tom and Jim Austin as well. They came to teach the lapstrake boat building class that Drew Langsner, who is the director, and his wife Louise is there, of course, too. But they run Country Workshops, and I had applied. Well, no, actually, I'd met Tom the previous summer. I guess it was 1994 when Tom was. I had come by to visit and to meet Drew because I had heard about this opportunity of a summer intern there. And I, at the time, was trying to find people that I could learn traditional handcrafts from. And I was in Western North Carolina doing just that. I had found some folks to learn from, but I had been directed to Drew. So, and I'd heard about this opportunity as a summer intern. So when I came up in 1994, he said, I got to see the place, and he told me how to apply for the next summer. I didn't know at the time, but, and if Tom could talk, he'd probably tell more of this story, but Tom had told Drew about the Carpenter's boat shop because Drew had a dream of having a wooden boat building class. And I've only heard this from Drew, but Drew said he told Tom this, and Tom said, well, I know some people that might come do that. And he mentioned Jim coming to teach a class. So fortunately for me, I got to be there the summer that they had already set up for me to take this class from Jim and Tom. And I didn't know anything about boats or boat building, or Maine was not at all on my radar. But when they came that for that 10 or 12 days or so, and I got to build that boat, it appealed to me in a deep way. And I remember just really being intrigued with it. So I had asked both Tom and Jim about the Carpenter's boat shop and about Maine and about learning more about wooden boat building. And so I made plans the next summer, which would have been 1996, to come to Maine. And I went to the Rockland Apprentice Shop for a couple weeks and checked out their program. I rented a car. I came on a bus to Maine, so I didn't have my own vehicle, but I rented a car, I think, and I went to the Washington County School way down east. They had a program in boat building at the time. And I also spent, I think I had tea with Bobby and Ruth because it was August, so there wasn't anyone here, but they told me they were already full for that, the beginning of that year of 1996, that fall. But they said they might have an opening in after the winter break in January. So they encouraged me to stay in touch. And if indeed they did have an opening, because they thought someone was only going to be there for that, they were going to be finishing that last half of the year. So I went from visiting with them. I said, okay, well, we'll stay in touch. I went over to Camden, and I had this idea that I wanted to, even though I didn't have any sailing experience, I wanted to see if I could get on a boat that was headed south. I thought that'd be a more adventurous way to get back south to Georgia than taking the bus back. So indeed, I went to Camden Harbor, and I had heard that there was a crew member leaving this particular schooner, the Appledore, that this picture's taken on. And that crew member was Darren. I didn't know at the time. And I said, hey, what's going on? You're leaving? He said, yeah, I'm going to this place, the Carpenter's Boat Shop. I said, really? I was just there. What's going on? So he came off the Appledore. I got on the Appledore, and I had rock climbing experience. So I was pretty good with knots and handling ropes and things. And one of the things that I was really excited about was they were near the end of their season. I guess I did day sails until through September and October, and then early November we headed off for the Florida Keys, and it was an offshore passage. And so that's what this picture was from, sailing down, and that turned out to be quite an adventure as well. But indeed, here I am back at the boat shop. So indeed that happened. I got to be there that January. So this picture was taken later in the spring, and during my apprentice year. So this is me. I think what happened is my parents came to visit, and they took these pictures. They probably didn't take that one. So this was what I was doing with Bob Fales. We were working on a Rangeley Lake boat. So as soon as I got there in January, they put me right in on this Rangeley Lake boat with Bob Fales and Jim Austin mostly. I think there might have been one other person, but it seemed like it was mostly Bob Fales, myself, and Jim Austin working on this. And there it is, a double-ended Rangeley Lake boat. Had a lot of ribs, as you can see, a lot of riveting to do. But I, again, was just loving it. And then I was also really enjoying Maine, being up here in Maine. And there was my my toolbox and my little initials I carved there. It looks like I was reading that note. It looks like I was getting ready to go away for the summer, because I had worked out to get a job at the Hurricane Island Outward Bound School. Again, I was just really taken with sailing and boating. And so here we are working on the pulling boats. And I wound up doing this every summer until 2002. I wound up getting my captain's license through my experience there, and just spending all summer out on these boats. There's a few pictures of that Alicia, I know, will appreciate, of eating tuna fish sandwiches in the rain. It's always popular. And you can see the oars, and let's see, you can move that faster. And then we, just had learning a lot more about sailing. Here you can see everybody's got their foul weather gear on, but it's sunny out. So, and I think I can see a reef in the main. So, it's pretty wet out there without a cabin, and just really enjoyed these experiences. There I am with my crew. And I think there might be one more. Oh, so pause it there for a second. So then things switched. My other job during that time I was doing Outward Bound was teaching woodworking down in Atlanta at the Atlanta College of Art. And I started there in 1999, and then that's where Angela and I re-met, I guess. We had met previously when we were in undergraduate school at the Atlanta College of Art, but we kind of re-met and we got married in 2003. And then I stopped working for Outward Bound. And I guess what I would, let's see, so I found out about the Carpenter's boat shop position. So you can see us here. This was during our first year, I think. Yeah, this was the first year of us teaching. You can see the old barn is still there. And I had heard about the position because the board had decided to hire Darren, myself and Darren over concerns about Ruth, and that Bobby, of course, would need more time. So we were both hired in 2003, August of 2003, we arrived. And Angela and I had just gotten married. And so she came along as well, of course. And then you
ready for the next one?
Yeah. So then Angela got pregnant with Conrad. You can see her starting to show there. And I continued to teach. And then a lot of you'll see some of these familiar faces. So here's Conrad and Angela and I. Now Angela is going to take over and talk about her part of the story, and then I'll come back and talk about our most recent adventures.
Yeah, the quilt is indicating my part of the story. So yeah, before Kenneth and the boat shop, I did, no, it's okay. I did have a life that consisted of making art and teaching college freshmen 2 and 3D design. But once we got married, and once we came to the boat shop, my life changed pretty dramatically. We had decided we wanted to start a family, and so we conceived right after we got to Maine. I ended up taking a very deep dive into being a mom and a caregiver that continues. I did a lot of stuff, but there aren't any pictures of me doing, like I was cooking and cleaning and making grocery lists and stuff. But it was all at the boat shop. So like the photographs I have are all of Conrad. So you're going to just look at our photo album. I tried to make them as boat shoppy as possible. But it's, it's not really showing, kind of Kenneth's photos are really different from my photos. But so this is like our family photo album. I learned a whole lot from living and working at the boat shop and being a mom. To be clear, nothing in my previous life prepared me for living at the boat shop and being a mom. So yeah, it was pretty intense times for me, and it was marvelous to have the incredible examples of family and work life, especially from Ruth and our friends, Louise in North Carolina as well. So yeah, I have learned a lot. Look, there's Elaine. Yeah, so Kenneth taught here for 10 years. And then when Conrad was 3, I took over the house manager position. And I did that for 3 or 4 years. I learned a lot about, feeding people, keeping the calendar, cleaning, hospitality, like really essential things for family life, things that go pretty unnoticed in our world. But I was working really hard. So I saw from the inside, how fundamental this stuff was, and I do it all the time. This is the same kind of thing that I do for our school, the Maine Coast Craft School, just down the road. The stuff that I do is invisible, but it's the foundation which allows everybody else, very specifically Kenneth, to do all the stuff that's more photogenic. So yeah, I'm still learning, and these slides are going really slow. Oh yeah, there's Jonathan with Conrad in a cauldron. You can run him around the boat shop. So yeah, for those of you, we made this slideshow specifically for people who are familiar with the boat shop. You can see all the construction on the new boat shop there. Like this is all of these very consistent, important rituals of the boat shop. We lived and breathed it for many years. In the summertime, for I think 2 summers, we went to Matinicus, and Kenneth and another apprentice, Daniel Clay, built a skiff with the homeschoolers there on the island. This was the first year they called it, or the second year they called it the Conrad K. The skiff was named the Conrad K. Another fabulous ritual that just happened, last weekend or the weekend before, cider pressing.
Where is it? Yeah.
What's that?
Oh, no, that was just, there's Elaine again.
There's Elaine again. This was Elaine's, well, that first picture, Elaine was actually an apprentice. She was there our very first year. Yeah, I see Dita looking at how cute Conrad was. Yeah, so yeah, we lived and worked here. Oh, this was something that actually wasn't invisible. I was kind of proud of this. What was it, Andrew Gardner? Andrew Marshall was a board member of the boat shop for a while, and he and I worked together to raise and slaughter meat chickens. Well, you can see that Conrad was with us for all of this. Some of the stuff he wasn't all that excited about, but he was an integral part, just like Hannah and Jonathan and Hilda, were a part of it, and the Carlucci's kids, so Conrad was just another one of those kids who lived and worked and grew up here. It was quite an exception. I didn't include any of the photographs. I don't know, some of you might remember so he would help me cook. And when he turned 6, it was clear that he was a good candidate for homeschooling. And so when he was about 6, I decided to resign as the house manager, and we started homeschooling. So here he's getting bigger and bigger. This is our friend Louise Langsner in Marshall, North Carolina. She taught me also a lot about cooking and about hospitality, and she and Drew are still big part of our lives too. Here's Conrad at one of our Camp Greenwood classes at our school, but Kenneth will tell you more about the school. And here is Conrad just a couple weeks ago. He's up in Mount Desert Isle now. He's at the College of the Atlantic studying botany. This is his first year as a college freshman there. So, so to switch over from the boat shop to our school, the Maine Coast Craft School, just real quick, I have just a couple of photographs to try to illustrate some of the things that I do for the school. I do the graphic design. This is our kitchen. our summer kitchen, and I cook lunches for our students. You know, I do all the kind of the behind the scenes invisible stuff. I take photographs. I do the newsletter, etc. Like I mostly take photographs of Kenneth working. I also take pictures of other people working. And that's a really, yeah. So most of the photographs are mine on the website, and I take photographs of myself working. So there's that beautiful kitchen. We just finished it last fall, this time last year. This is our pizza oven that was built before any structures on the campus were built. So the oven was the very first thing. So every now and then I make pizza, and Kenneth and our current intern, David, finished this beautiful little timber frame. Andrew Donaldson designed it. And we had a class in 2021 to cut the frame. So anyway, there's all kind, so like the big picture kind of planning stuff and the organization of the school, the background, keeping the calendar, all that stuff that goes pretty unnoticed. So I just want to say, it's my school too. So like, I'm the co-founder, and I'm half the team, though you don't see me. One of the things I do is I sell woodworking tools, hand forged from Sweden. So this is the point at which Kenneth starts back.
All right. Thank you, Angela.
Yeah.
Excellent. So pause it there just for a second, Angela. So
that's when Elaine was an apprentice.
Yeah, this is when we first arrived. There's Mike Stevens as well. You might recognize him, Kurt and John. But anyways, so when I came here, I had been coming, as you noticed, in the summers to Maine, but I was back in the Atlanta College of Art in the 9 months that I wasn't in Maine teaching woodworking. But I hadn't done any boat building since that time, that pram I built with Jim and Tom that I mentioned back in 1995. So, but fortunately, a lot of the skills that I had acquired working with hand tools, and also the time I had spent as an educator, I credit a lot of my time with Outward Bound, learning about experiential education. Even before I worked with Outward Bound, I had worked at some outdoor ed programs down in Western North Carolina, teaching rock climbing and backpacking down there near Highlands, North Carolina. I'm sure Tom remembers that area. So I had a lot of these experiences teaching. And so, but it was mostly about this sort of outdoor adventure programming. But at the core of it, it was still experiential education. So after I got finished with country workshops, I realized that woodworking could be experiential education, that you could teach people this craft through experience. And also my time at the Atlanta College of Art helped me realize that. And I had always loved educating, and then I think combining my passions for either outdoor adventure or hand tool woodworking and crafts was just such. Oh, there's KP, who was our speaker series last time, right? The last speaker was KP. So that was KP in their year, and they were the first. This is the year Dave is there too. Dave McDonald, who's there. So they were there as the first group who built these shave horses, which we were actually using. I was here today with the apprentices, and we had these out using them to help us carve some butter spreaders. But when I came, I had these experiences that I wanted to continue to share with people. I was really passionate about this hand tool woodworking and green woodworking, and like this, working directly with a tree to make these products. And I was able to convince Bobby that would be a good idea to include this. And So we changed the program and do things other than boats. So here's a group with all of their chairs and firewood carriers and toolboxes. It looks like we're getting ready for apple pressing as well. So what would happen is that the apprentices would.
There's Chelsea.
Oh, there's Chelsea in there. Yeah. So the apprentices would roll through with me, and then everyone would do one chair themselves, and then they would also still build boats, of course. So it was I think it was 3 weeks they would spend making a chair with me. And I think Serafina built one of these chairs. I see.
Yeah, there's Serafina and Darren.
Yeah, Darren, Serafina had really been interested. And we would do rocking chairs. Here's 3 rocking chairs. So we could kind of, I could make up the chairs. I could design new chairs based on what customers wanted. So you'll see a few different pictures here of the different chairs. It seems like it's stuck. Oh, there it goes. So here's a picture of one of the apprentices, Elizabeth building theirs. Here's another one working on the shave horses. This is in the new shop now. And then here was one we actually did for Andrew Marshall's family. He wanted his seats woven in climbing webbing. That's 1-inch tubular rock climbing webbing that we wove the seats for his family in. And you can see I designed a child's chair and a stool and some kind of low back stools there. So here, and we could make, this was a client who wanted 6 chairs, all matching. So there's Joe and Nate there, of course, when he was an apprentice, and Elizabeth and John Paul. And we also used to make these firewood carriers. It was a great greenwood project. We'd steam bend the frames there, and
all the stuff that you learned at country.
This is all stuff from country workshops. Yeah, I took a lot of the skills I had learned there and just brought them to the boat shop. It was this kind of great transition. And of course, we did some boats too. So there were oiling a pea pod. But I think I myself enjoyed sharing that with people. And then it seemed to be a real hit with a lot of the apprentices. Some of them have gone on to have that be their careers, that type of woodworking. So we also did trips. So I brought with me my outward bound interest. So I was like, let's do some, long-term outdoor trips here. Then, so this was on one of our trips that we had done out to Harbor Island, is where we are, I believe. Yeah. And here we are. I took them we even did winter trips. I took them up to Bill Copperthwaite's, and we all hung out with Bill and did winter camping with Bill. You can see, who do we know in that picture? I see Nate's there.
Margaret, Nate White.
Mike, Margaret, Elliot.
Christina, Emily.
Yeah. So now we're kind of in the present here a little bit. So this was last year. Alicia asked me to come back and help the apprentices with their orientation, the hand tool side of the orientation, when they had just arrived. So I designed these tool totes to have some boat-like qualities. You might recognize the curve of the transom there at the ends of that tote there, and a lot of information packed in there. And was just delighted to ask to come back and to help share that. So there was I did 4 of them at a time. That was one half of the apprentice group from, and there's Sarah, of course, who were with us. But alongside all that, I think that, yeah, so now we're getting on to the Maine Coast Craft School. So there's still a lot of interplay though. Some of the people this is a collage of our interns. So we still have the intern position because it was so important to me at Country Workshops back in 1995 that we wanted to carry that on. So all these people come for the whole summer. So there's Kale in the center in the top, who was an apprentice here.
Brennan was our, Lily was our very first.
Yeah. And then Dan is in the lower left too.
Amy Umble.
And
Eric McIntyre.
And Eric McIntyre now has his own handcraft store in Wiscasset, the Village Handcraft Store. And Amy Amble does podcasts. Cut the Craft is her podcast. So we've had a lot of, and this is our current intern, David Barnum, was an apprentice here right before Alicia arrived. And he's making his Windsor seat there. And he's with us now. He'll be leaving at the end of this month. There's David known as Cooper. We did coopering as well. That's another Country Workshops tradition. Here's another, this was before we had the craft school, but this is Emily Abrahams doing moving some heavy logs with me. I don't know why we're doing that. And here's more of our interns that we've had. There's Elliot down there.
Conrad wasn't actually an intern.
Yeah, that's sort of mixed in. And here's an aerial view of the craft school in the wintertime. You can see the larger building in the center is the actual school, and then the smaller building to the left is the kitchen. And then there's a round building off to the right corner. Then that's one of our Bill Copperthwaite yurts. That's where our summer intern stays. This is not our house, though. Our house is in an adjacent property, but you can't see, and you can't really tell, but there's no utilities on this road. So the school is totally off grid. We don't have electricity or running water at the school. So it's quite an experience when people come to have the immersion of this lifestyle that we have, as well as learning these hand tool woodworking. Now, this is the first summer of classes. So Country Workshops, I didn't tell this part of the story, but Country Workshops, Drew and Louise, did you pause it for me?
Yeah.
This will take a minute to tell this part. So in 2013, I decided I taught at the boat shop for 10 years, from 2003 to 2013. And in 2013, I resigned, and I was just making some changes in my life. And one of the things I wanted to do was to start teaching again. So I had called up Drew Langsner, and then I actually met Drew, came here as well, he and Louise, to teach a class at Lee Nielsen Hand Tool. And he said, well, rather than starting a school in Maine, why don't you just come down here and just take over Country Workshops, because we want to retire. So Angela and I talked over, and we said, well, yeah, that makes sense, rather than starting from scratch. So the summer of 2016, we spent the whole summer down there with Drew, and I co-taught all the classes that summer. And like Angela was saying, she and Louise we were sort of preparing to have this handoff of Country Workshops. But near the end of the summer, Drew and Louise kind of needed to backpedal their offer. They sort of realized that it was going to be better for them to have their life be more simple in their retirement, and that
the kitchen was their kitchen, like for the school, like the workspace was Drew's actual own studio. There was no way to separate the facilities from their home. Yeah. They had built everything in their home.
So for a lot of, it just made sense for all of us to like, well, there's going to be a lot of problems. So they said, why don't just carry on with the plan you had, just do your school in Maine, and we'll just sort of hand this torch of our business over to you. We'll send all the students who want to, when they find out we're retiring, they're going to say, well, where do we take classes? And Drew said he would direct them towards us. And so, oh yeah, so we started on the building, and that was our first summer. We had to have classes in the building in that shape. By the end of the summer, we had the roof on it. Let me see, I'll go through these a little quicker. Here it is today. We have this tarp that and we have solar panels for lights. This was another building that we started on.
That's the kitchen building, and that was 2020.
This was the COVID year. So we did a frame raising with COVID. And that's the same building. That's the kitchen and office that you saw earlier. Angela's office will be on the second floor.
Eventually.
There's the little frame we did over the pizza oven, the crook frame that Andrew designed, and we did a class last summer. And there's David and I finally getting the roof on it with salvaged sheet metal shingles that we made.
So everything is handmade. That's part of Bill Copperthwaite's teaching and legacy, just the beauty of handmade things. A lot of it salvaged too.
This is our outhouse yurt. So now we're looking at some of the classes from this past summer.
We're gonna speed through these.
So
'cause
there's
we're kinda-
Kevin, I know Kevin's watching. So there's
Hey,
Kevin
Kevin.
in the make a chair from a tree. So this was the same chair that I taught at the Carpenter's boat shop. We also, but now this is a more complex chair, a Windsor chair.
So these images are from this past summer's classes, and it's basically all kinds of students working on the different projects. That's a Tina box. Oh, this was actually the timber frame from 2021.
Coopering class.
More coopering.
Carved bowls, half log hewn bowl carving. There's some more ladder backs.
It's always such a popular class.
More bowl carving.
That's our timer. We're out of time.
There's some spoon carving going on.
Spoon carving. There's a crook.
Yeah, looking for good spoon wood there.
It's so lovely to work outside.
We do some broom making.
One of our friends from the boat shop taught us broom making. Fritz Musser. A lot of ladder back. This is a Curtis Buchanan Windsor, shaved Windsor. Okay, we're at the end. So it's me carrying firewood. There's Kenneth moving some wood.
And here
Ta-da!
we are at Pimlico Point. Yay. So if anybody wants to find out more about us, there's our website and email and our
It's not hard to find us.
even our Instagram page. It's all Maine Coast craft stuff. So I think we can do some questions now, right, Alicia?
So I can stop sharing.
Yeah.
So this is Tom.
Hey, Tom.
Very emotional for me. So first of all, I just want to say,
Nice chair.
yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
gosh.
Thank you. Thank
You're
you.
welcome. Yay. Yeah, we've got some too. No, it was great seeing you, Tom. I'm so glad you got to hear that because you're definitely intertwined in the story here.
It means a lot to me.
Yeah.
I'm there's so much I'd love to say, but
Well, you have our contact information. Feel
Yeah.
free to be
Yeah.
in touch. You said Baltimore?
yeah, I'm in Baltimore now.
Yeah.
So I help low-income families to reduce their utility bills. I work in the weatherization assistance program now. I started working in weatherization with Chip.
Yay.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
Oh,
see
well,
Kevin
good.
there.
Well, come visit, Tom, if you're ever up this way.
I will.
Yeah.
I will. Thank you so much.
We're so pleased to have been invited, Alicia. This is really nice to see all these friends here in our little screens.
Oh, look, there's
Oh, look, Kevin.
Kevin's
Nice.
chair. Yeah, Kevin made his this past summer. Yeah, Kevin.
I do have a question. That was remarkable. And those photos, oh my gosh, I'm so glad that we captured that. That was really super fun. I do have a question for both of you. Can you two talk about teaching handcrafts in an increasingly fast-paced, automated world? And does your mission feel changed or more urgent now than it did when you began?
Oh, good question.
It feels really essential to me. Like it's always felt that way.
Yeah, I don't know that it's changed. It's more that I think Well, one thing that happened was, I was involved and a few of us were involved in this stuff before the internet came around. And after the internet, people were able to connect with other people and find out about this type of hand tool woodworking. And so it's amazing that it's just really exploded, I guess, the interest in it. So it seems like as time has gone on, it's become more, not less interesting or less needed or less fulfilling for people, but I would say the opposite. It's like more people are more interested in it and finding more fulfillment through it, and finding it accessible and rewarding. And I think many folks coming to the craft school where there is no utilities or electricity and or running water, they get a chance to step outside not only are they doing this handcraft with it's already outside maybe their normal routine, but also the whole setting is outside of that. And it just seems like it's been really a helpful thing for people.
So when I think I looked at your class offerings maybe a week or two ago, and it seems like even at this point, so far out from the summertime, that you're heavily enrolled. Like it feels like enrollment is a non-issue for you all. Is that accurate? And you plan to extend like your seasonality?
Thank you for reminding me about that. This is a big part of the school. The fact that our classes are very small. We have 4 students plus our intern, so 5 students total for each class. And we do not have any plans for ever changing that, because it really feels like the very best educational experience that we can offer, to have a small class. We've had in the several students, have had, some people come and they've already know a lot about woodworking, but even so, like there's so many subtleties to teach, but then it's a small enough class that like our classes are all open to any skill level. So complete beginner to very advanced, they can all be in the same class together. There's so much to learn, but it's a small enough class that people who need extra information, it's absolutely doable. So we feel very strongly to keep the school small. We have classes just from the end of April until mid-September, and we're going to keep it that way. The school is pretty much what it is. I mean, our infrastructure still is getting yeah. Instead of finishing projects, we start new ones. That's kind of how we work.
Yeah. At the most, we might, as we get the building more finished and maybe a little bit more weather tight, we might be able to do a little bit of maybe weekend classes in the shoulder season, but
nothing in the winter.
But it's also really nice, I think, just as Drew and Louise showed us, that having that time to do personal enrichment and work on things that we're interested in, other things, other than the school, helps us have more to offer when we do come back to teach the next summer, for sure.
Well, I'm really good at making buildings nice and tight.
Oh, you'd have a lot of work here. We were so perfectly set up for COVID. Like we had no windows anywhere. We still don't. They're coming. We're working on it.
I have another question here for you from the audience about community at the main craft school. How well do your students get to know one another, and do they develop relationships or stay in touch long after your classes?
Well, that's a good question. I don't have a lot of information about that, but I do see people definitely getting to know each other easily during the class. There's just 4 of us. So for a lot of the projects, you need a or 5 of us, yeah. You need a partner to maybe sight your boring angle for a leg or something like that, or to hold something. So there's a lot of group interaction in the classes. That's just the nature of some of the projects we're doing. So, and often people are here, they take care of their own housing. So we provide lunches, but breakfast and dinner are on their own. So I've noticed sometimes people will say, hey, what are you doing for supper? And maybe they'll go get a meal together. So we've had that happen. And also we get to know them quite well. We've had many students come back. We actually just had
last
one
weekend.
this past weekend, Giselle, who was in one of those pictures, just came for a visit. So I think they're, because of the scale, we do get to know the different students and have longer term relationships with them. I haven't noticed, I don't know how they're doing aside from us, like on their own. I don't have a lot of,
They stay in touch with us.
I sense that they do.
This past summer, we had 2 classes that were full
Yeah.
of returning students.
I
We
know
had
that-
like all alum
Yeah,
for
like,
2 of the classes, right?
right. And Kevin's coming with another apprentice, TJ, that they set up to come take a sort of a special sharpening situation with me. So,
One of the interesting things is when we started the school, it was really because of Drew and Louise's tailwind. And people around here didn't know about us. Our students were coming from Canada and Florida and California, and they still do. This last year, we had a few more local people, a woman from Round Pond, so people from our neighborhood are starting to understand that we're here. So, but previous to that, it was like people on vacation, pretty much.
Mm.
We have that one, we have JW coming from Louisiana.
a lot of repeats. We've had some classes that fill entirely with people who have already come for other classes.
Yeah.
So it's been fun.
Yeah, and Kenneth and Angela, I would just say that to me the school is all about community. You know, how everyone supports one another during the class, and people help one another. And it could be somebody with more experience than someone else, but everyone just you kind of work together, and we all finish at the end. We share lunch together every day, and so to me, it's all about community and all that. And I think that's one of the most wonderful things about it.
Thank you, Kevin.
I'm going to close with a statement from an apprentice that was in Kenneth's class today that says, when can you come back to the boat shop for another day class? So very successful on this end too. Thank you both so much.
Oh, yeah. Well, thank you everyone for your time and coming,
Nice
we're
to see
honored
everyone.
Thanks, guys.
Nice
Bye,
to see you
Phil.
all. Yeah,
Thank
and
you
send us,
so
if you have
much.
more questions, just send them to us at the craft school.
Good to see you.
Okay, bye, everyone.
All right.
Bye.
See you soon.